Well, for years we've been reporting on falling home sales and home prices and rising foreclosures, but now there are signs that the housing decline may be ending. Zillow.com, an online real estate marketplace, reporting today that home values nationwide fell 3.2% in the second quarter, the smallest drop during the housing downturn. Zillow also reporting that home values rose in 20 out of 26 markets it tracks in California. And the percentage of homeowners who owe more than their homes are worth dropped in the second quarter. Needless to say, a lot of data. Joining us right now to make sense of it all is Stan Humphries. He's the chief economist at Zillow.com. You know, Stan, I just went through a lot of information, so it sounds like some is good, some is bad. Net and net, how do you read this latest release from you guys?
Yeah, it's, there are a few data points that kind of send a mixed signal there. In terms of appreciation rates of home values, that's probably the core point that people kind of want to anchor on. And there we've got some good news in that the trend is moving in the right direction. We're still down, as you said, 3.2% on a year-over-year basis, but the monthly declines are getting better each month. So while we're still headed down, we're not headed down as fast as we were before, so I think that's some good news. And on the negative equity numbers, it is nice to see some decrease in the negative equity across the U.S. Unfortunately, a key reason why that number is declining is because foreclosure volumes are so high. When a foreclosure occurs, that takes a house that was oftentimes in negative equity and converts it into a positive equity house. So, that number's coming down really on the backs of a lot of U.S. homeowners who are losing their homes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't want to downplay the importance of your website and the Z-Score and your iPhone app, which I use constantly, but you guys really made your name, at least in business news, talking about this figure, mortgages that are underwater, and pointing out what really is a scary phenomenon and the direction that we're headed. Do you think that this signals a turnaround? I mean, now that we've come back down from a reading of 23% or 23.3% to only 21% being underwater, or is that number going to continue climbing up to, say, 25, 30%?
No, I think that we have seen, it's unclear whether, I think largely we're not going to see it go up much more than that, than the current rate it's at. So as you mentioned, it did drop from, 23.3% down to 21.5% in the second quarter. So we actually saw a decrease in negative equity, which is pretty good news. Our forecast right now nationally does see continued sustained declines in home values, but moderating each month. So the monthly depreciation will go down, and that's going to help negative equity, particularly as foreclosure volumes stay very high. It's going to be foreclosure activity is going to be cleaning out that negative equity number. So if depreciation rates continue to go down on a monthly basis, heading towards being flat, then we think that the negative equity number is not going to, it should begin to trend down. Unfortunately, it's going to stay pretty high, for the next, at least a couple of years because of the overall, what's happening in the housing market overall.
So, but Stan, the idea really should be bring on the foreclosures, right? Because the banks hold so much property that they don't want to flood the market with, but the sooner we're through this, the sooner we can really see a bottom in the housing market.
Well, yeah, I think in some ways, it's interesting that you say that, because if you compare different markets in terms of their their ability to deal with foreclosures, you do see that markets that are able to move through foreclosures faster have apparently do seem to be having better performance now. They don't leave the foreclosures hanging around. The supply numbers come down. So, here probably the cleanest contrast is between a market like California, which has a non-judicial foreclosure process, and a state like Florida, which has a judicial foreclosure process. And there are substantial differences in the length of time it takes foreclosures to go through those two processes. And California is doing really quite well right now. And a key reason for that is because it has been able to process through foreclosures, get them back on the market, and get the market working normally again. But
they've also had some nice tax credits, both federal and state tax credits. What happens after those go away?
Yeah, that's definitely, when we look at the 26 markets we track at Zillow in California, and 20 of those markets have seen quarter-over-quarter increases, and some of those have seen substantial increases. You look at LA, San Francisco, San Jose, they're all above 5%. San Diego is actually above 7%, and that's clearly not sustainable, and that is clearly dual tax credit driven demand.
All right, we got to run. Hey, Stan, thank you so much. Stan Humphries, the chief economist at Zillow.com.